So I would say that I became proficient probably after the third year, and I got some confidence because there's some agents out here that are mean. Like, I don't want to be that agent. I would write an offer and I would say, did you get it? And agents would say things like, well, I've been doing this for 5 years and you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, and I have some sarcasm and I would pause and say, I'm sorry, so you've always been a top producer, super producer, you were never new? So give me some grace. So about 6 deals in, I felt like I was proficient. And then I would say about 3 years in, I'd say I had probably really gotten into the groove of doing the business.
Got you. At that point, what were you doing to increase your business?
So again, I didn't have deep pockets. So what I did well, and I was tech savvy, I would create a newsletter and I would create it in Microsoft Publisher. We didn't have Canva. And I would write my own articles. I would talk about the market update, and the townhouses that I lived in, there was about 197. I would walk my subdivision every single month until it got cold, because in Illinois, around November, it gets cold, and it gets even colder in January. So for about 3 months, I might have mailed. But I walked my neighborhood. I had doorknob bags that I had gotten from Uline. We didn't have Amazon, because Amazon buys their bags from Uline, which is across the street, and it's the same cost, comes about the same amount of time. So I would stuff bags and I would walk. And it took about 7 months for me to get a deal from my own neighborhood. So the two things I did was I walked my neighborhood, and that was it. The other thing I did was I mailed to my friends and my family, and I worked the church like it was like nobody's business.
Welcome to the Real Estate Proverbs podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and today our guest is Carrie Little. How are you, Carrie?
I'm doing pretty good. It's an early Friday morning in the Chicagoland area, so I'm doing good, and it's not freezing out.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. What was the weather?
It's probably in the high 50s, but tomorrow it's going to be 80.
Okay, awesome. It's supposed to be 80 here today, so we're looking for a great day.
Yeah, we don't like you.
Don't be like that. You're always welcome.
Well, we're happy to always get out of the cold. When the older we get, we're like, how do we get out of this? We're trying.
I understand. So before we get started, I want to let you know that you and your husband, Mark, are very entertaining. Very entertaining.
You got to see Mark in action. I'm kind of glad he's not here. We're having the debate on, he thinks I'm supposed to cook dinner every night. And we have no kids at home. So one day we'll be going live about that. But he's, my husband, I think he was always a comedian. I've known him since high school. He grew up in the church. He plays the organ by ear. So I don't know. I'm like, it has to do with the preacher's kid that he was always acting out. But he's good to listen to because he's always got a story and he's always trying to make it funny.
Yeah, you guys are entertaining. Definitely entertaining. I enjoy when you guys do the lives together. Sometimes he acts like he doesn't want to be there, but he participates.
He does. He wants to be there. Like when I tell you, when we go to events, people are like, "Where's Mark?" I'm like, "Really? Really?" Because he's the one. Like there are days I'm like, "You need to just, if I could just get you on a show." I'm convinced everyone would show up because he will tell you the truth if you're willing to hear it. Like all my girlfriends want to show up because they want to ask him questions. He wants to talk about flips. He wants to talk about all these things he does. You think he doesn't want to be there, but he's just acting.
Acting. That's what's up. So Carrie, if you had to introduce yourself of who you are, do that for us now.
So I would say, I'll keep it simple. I've been in the real estate industry since 1997. And I'm an instructor today. I got into technology because of my identical twin sister. I got hired at a tech company based on her technical skills. I didn't know how to type, but they hired me based on her skills. So I come from tech. My boutique brokerage, CarMarc Realty Group here in Illinois, is really pushed based on tech. And I like to to find people that either want to learn tech or they can operate in tech and technology. We have between Mark and I, between the two of us, we have 5 kids, 2 grandkids. I am very tech savvy and I'm very involved in the real estate industry from our local association, state and national. And you could probably catch me outside at a national event and I'll be there. And I typically go to the legislative meetings and the national convention. So I would say, to keep it simple, love real estate, love educating real estate agents, and I love to teach people how to use the tools they already have and not spend any extra money, although they could.
Gotcha. Do you attend mid-year in DC?
I do.
Okay.
I'm actually one of the FPCs, one of the federal political coordinators. I think Karen is one in Georgia. And so I am a federal political coordinator for one of our congressmen here in Illinois.
Wow.
So I have to go.
Gotcha. Awesome. So let's talk about how you got into real estate.
So here's my story. So I come from a family where I feel like I've always had everything, but my mother never told us to pay our bills on time. And so here's the story. So in 97, I decided I wanted to buy a house. And I remember going through the process. So I bought new construction. And at the time in 97, we didn't have grant programs. Sellers weren't paying closing cost credit. And so when I went to buy a property, I bought new construction and they allowed me to pay about $1,000 a month until I closed so I can come up with my down payment. My mother did give me a gift, but the biggest challenge for me is I had to write a lot of letters because I wasn't paying my bills on time. And I went to my mom and I said, why didn't you tell me to pay my bills on time? And she was like, I didn't think I had to tell you that because my mother never told me, I just did. And so when I went through the process, I thought, and I love my real estate agent, love the loan officer, love the builder, but I felt like there were some gaps, especially for people, especially for minorities. And especially based on the fact that when I closed, I didn't know that I could spend $145,000. I thought that I could only spend $130,000. And I thought there was a disconnect. And, everything they told me to do, I did because I wanted the house bad enough. So if they asked me for something more than once, twice, or 3 times, because, as a loan officer, you're going to ask me more than once. And I'm always thinking, why? But I just did it because I wanted the house bad enough. So I thought when I closed, and the real estate agent is now an attorney, she did a better job than our attorney. The loan officer was great, but I felt like he could have explained it better. So I thought I should get into the real estate business because I think I could do a better job at explaining the entire process. So what I do great. Now I'm a broker owner today. I try not to sell houses, but I do still mail to my network and sphere, and then my husband takes them out. What I try to do is break it down to a level where anyone can understand. Now I work with everyone, but I'm really good with first-time buyers, first generational buyers, and people that move to the United States. So I got into the business because I thought I could do a better job. And I thought, and I worked for the builder part-time, and I was referring all of my friends, and I could only make a certain dollar amount. So as when you're not licensed, you could only get referral fees up to a certain dollar amount every year. And I'm like, I'm not making the compensation, so I think I should get my license. So that was the biggest reason I got in. I thought I could do a better job.
Right. I'm curious. You said you wrote a lot of letters back then because you didn't pay bills. What type of financing did you obtain?
FHA, that I know. So it was FHA, and I had to write letters because, I paid my bills, but I might've been a couple of days late. So I had to write letters of explanation on why was I late. And so, and they coached me through it, but I still had to write the letter. And it was, this is, I was late because, and this is what I'm doing better. So I had to write a letter of explanation to prove that I'd be a great candidate to buy. So I had an FHA loan. I had, let me think, I was still in college at the time. So student loans. So I had to prove that I was a great candidate to buy. And a lot of people think FHA is a bad word, or in my market, there were not a lot of FHA buyers. because I live in a neighborhood. Well, I live in a city now where we might have a lot of FHA buyers, but my real estate license, a lot of agents didn't know, they didn't do FHA because they thought if you were FHA, you didn't have money, you had bad credit, where that's not what it means. So FHA, a lot of letters to explain why I was late.
Gotcha. And that still holds true today. There's still a stigma on FHA borrowers. And in essence, I always explain to people, it just has the highest threshold for debt to income ratio and mishaps on credit. You know, the small things. I missed a payment on a credit card. Common. Now, if you've missed a year of payments, then that's a different story. But one payment, 30 days.
You're right. And even so, I had to still put down 5% because it was new construction. So that tells you that even though someone's going FHA, it doesn't mean they don't have money. Because in this market right now, when we show houses, and I'll just give you an example. So I took on a listing. My husband did, it was under him, but I did all the work, and we got 15 offers. And a few of them were FHA, a lot were conventional. And there were some FHA buyers that would pay the gap between what the house appraised for and based on where they wrote. Because out of 15 offers, 12 came in above ask, 2 came in at asking price, 1 came in below ask, and out of the 15, someone asked for closing cost credit. So I'm not going to tell you how many FHA, but only because I don't want people to think that they were discriminated against, because it had nothing to do with whether it was FHA or conventional. What it had to do, the reason the seller picked a certain offer was because the one buyer, FHA or conventional, not only did they have the money to come to closing with the gap, they said they were putting down 30%. So there are people that have to go FHA for whatever reason, but they have money. Because I had a client once went through a bad divorce, had a lot of money, had a bankruptcy, and he only could buy FHA, but had more money to put down. So you're right. And there's a stigma of FHA buyers are not credit worthy. I like it because it's government backed. And I still have an FHA loan on my townhouse that I still own, that I bought in 1997, and I moved. And so because I've owned the property for so long, I still have the loan, and I don't care if I'm paying mortgage insurance premium, because the mortgage payment is $500.
Wow. Wow. So cool.
Right.
So
never pull cash out.
Never pull cash out.
And I'll tell you, I don't think people should pull cash out of their houses. Now there's always strategy, but I always think the house that you live in should be the house you don't do anything to. And if you have to fix the windows or upgrade the windows, upgrade the roof, go get a side hustle, go do something, but don't finance the repairs. That's what I think.
Interesting standpoint. Interesting.
I think go finance all the other refinance all the other properties, but your own house should be the house that you maintain and where you build the equity. That's just what I think.
Gotcha. So 1997, got your license. Got
licensed in 2001, worked for a builder in 97. Bought my first house in 97.
All right. 2001. So what did your first year of real estate look like, from coming from a builder world to being a agent doing retail?
So let me say this. So when I got my real estate license, I mean, we say incompetence, like I was really good at the gift of gab. Like I can talk, I'm an extrovert. I have a twin sister. So I knew everyone. So for me, getting the business wasn't hard. It was that I had to learn the business. And I'm over here looking at my, I'm going to go look up my data. So I'll say this. So my first year, I didn't have the pocketbooks to do the business. Because remember, I said, I had to put a lot of money. I had to figure out how to buy. And then when I got my license, my mother paid for the class. And then my mother paid for me to become a member of the local, state, and national association. And she paid what was called a key fee with the association with the company that I decided to work with. So I didn't have the pocketbooks to do business. So what I learned quickly is I had to call my friends, because we didn't have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all that other stuff. We had to actually work. So I called all my friends. As a matter of fact, before I got licensed, because I took the class starting in March of 2001. And when I took the license, I had called off when I got in the class, and I took it at a local college because I'm a student. Like, I don't know how people pass these exams and they do it in 2 weeks. I had to study. I had like a stack of note cards like this. So my first year I called on my friend, my first 3 months before I got licensed, I called my friends and I'm like, if you're thinking about buying or selling, don't do anything. I'll be licensed by July. And what was amazing is that a friend and a family member did just that. So I got so right out the gate, right into the business. I had no clue what I was doing. And so Barbara listed her house with me 7 days in. It went under contract by July 15th. I had my first closing in August, like by August 17th. And, in my mind, I was like, man, this is the best hustle ever. And then by August 24th, I had my next listing and closed that one in September. And my third deal, because that seller family also bought, but it was for sale by owner. So that one was never recorded. And
Wow.
And so I'm looking at my transactions here in my MLS. So I had 3 deals, from July through December. And then after that, these are listings, not buys. So these are listings. And then in the next year, I had 2 more listings. And if I look at my transactions through like 2005 for listings, I had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, I'll tell you, I got the number 15, but I had kids. And a lot of times as agents, we think we need to make a killing. For me, I didn't want to go back to work full time. Like, I wanted to be available for my kids. I wanted to be able to go on vacation, and I wanted to show up for sports. So that was just my listings. And then when it came to the buy side, let me see if I can get that number. So the buy side, my first through like 2006, I had 25. So I was making enough money to supplement and still be available for my kids. Because again, I wanted to take my kids to vacation. I wanted to be available for sports. And, I had to cook dinner. But this wasn't my husband today. That was the other one.
So at that point, were you full-time? Or?
I was full-time. Well, when I started, I worked part-time for a church.
Okay.
But the benefit was, because one of my kids at the time, my oldest, who was now 31, because I was 19 with the first kid. That's a whole nother podcast. He went to a private school. So I would drop him off, and then I would go to work for a church, and I managed everything from putting their money in the bank after church on Sunday. It was just me in the office. And I started that in 99. So I would say I was full-time based on my schedule, but I worked part-time at a church like 3 days a week from about 9:30 a.m. until about 2 when I went to pick up Ryan at school. So what I would do is I would go to work. I'd take Ryan, go to work, come home, cook dinner, leave the kids at home, and then go to the office. And so I would say I was full-time based on my schedule because I could adjust. So and I had Lauren at the time, I could put her in the car. She was the easiest baby ever. And she would do real estate with me.
Wow. So at what point did you start to feel like you got your groove in the real estate industry?
I would say I had my groove after about the first 6 transactions, because I knew how to write a listing agreement. I knew how to explain the listing agreement, and I knew how to write a contract. I would say I got my groove. Do I feel like I was an expert? No, because I am clear I was violating the rules. So I would say that I became proficient probably after the 3rd year. and I got some confidence because there's some agents out here that are mean. Like, I don't want to be that agent. I would write an offer and I would say, did you get it? And agents would say things like, well, I've been doing this for 5 years and you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, and I have some sarcasm and I would pause and say, I'm sorry, so you've always been a top producer, super producer, you were never new? So give me some grace. So about 6 deals in, I felt like I was proficient. And then I would say about 3 years in, I'd say I had probably really gotten into the groove of doing the business.
Got you. At that point, what were you doing to increase your business?
So again, I didn't have deep pockets. So what I did well, and I was tech savvy, I would create a newsletter and I would create it in Microsoft Publisher. We didn't have Canva. And I would write my own articles. I would talk about the market update, and the townhouses that I lived in, there was about 197. I would walk my subdivision every single month until it got cold, because in Illinois, around November, it gets cold and it gets even colder in January. So for about 3 months, I might have mailed, but I walked my neighborhood. I had doorknob bags that I had gotten from Uline. We didn't have Amazon because Amazon buys their bags from Uline, which is across the street, and it's the same cost. Comes about the same amount of time. So I would stuff bags and I would walk. And it took about 7 months for me to get a deal from my own neighborhood. So the 2 things I did was I walked my neighborhood and that was it. The other thing I did was I mailed to my friends and my family, and I worked the church like it was like nobody's business. Like, if you weren't working with me at church, you just weren't supporting me. And there were a lot of people that worked with me. That was my hustle, the church and my sphere of influence, people I knew, family, friends, people I grew up with, past jobs. And then I walked my neighborhood, and that was it. And then the other one I would include was I had kids in sports. So they knew that I was a real estate agent, and people would ask me questions. So I closed deals with the gymnastics coach, the orchestra teacher, teachers. And sometimes I was just a resource. And that's how I grew my business. And we didn't have, again, social media.
Gotcha. So what year was this?
2001.
2001.
So 2001, 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5, I worked my neighborhood, people I knew. And then, right around 2007, because I'm a real estate agent, I became the kid that had to take care of grandma. And so there was about 2 years where I didn't really market. So I was only doing enough business because I had to take grandma to dialysis. Even though my uncle was in town, my mother was in another state, and my twin had already moved. Everybody thinks in a family that real estate agents have all the time in the world. No, we make it right today. We make it look good on social media. We make it look good on social media because we want to generate leads, but people don't really know the full process. I mean, there's a process to building a business. And when you stop marketing, it's hard to really generate business. So, until grandma got sick. So for about 2 years, I was really the caretaker. And then I did some business, and because I still was a mom.
Right. So that's interesting, because at the time that you became a caretaker and got back into the industry, the market was totally different. So how did you make that shift?
So I never really left. I still did the work from 2007, 8, and 9, and I still worked my sphere. I didn't mail as much, but I was going to church every Sunday, going on Wednesday, prayer on Friday. So people knew when the market started to shift, because in 2009 was when it kind of started to tank. That's when I went back to my database and I started mailing to the people like, hey, I'm still here. And I missed about 3 deals because I had kind of disappeared. But I became an expert in short sales. So when the market shifted, I became an expert before we had the short sale foreclosure rep class or course. And then now's the time when you have MySpace. I was only on it because of my oldest. And then we had Facebook. And I was only on Facebook because, well, there was a few things. I was on something called Ning, Ning, because our high school was on it. And that's how we started to connect for the reunions. And then I was on Facebook because the admin at the time, she was 20. She was like, Carrie, you need to be on Facebook. And I know you're on MySpace. And I'm like, nope, I don't need to be on Facebook. She was like, yes, you do. You can add your listings. And this was pre-business pages. So because I got onto social media early, it changed the game for me through today, because I have a nice following because I started it early. So there's something to be said for the people, whether you're an agent coming into the business and whether you did business before, the shift is easier. So when the market started to tank, I learned short sales. I started working short sales and I became an expert somewhere around 2005 on HUD homes. No one would teach you. They don't tell you when you get your license that, oh, I'm like, I want, can you be my mentor? Agents are like, no, you can't follow me. I'm not showing you anything. So I had to go, I called HUD, I got my own key. I learned short sales. I got online, I Googled. I became the person that would contact the bank, working with the attorneys. I knew it better than the attorneys. But the one thing I did when the market started to shift and I was going through some challenges at home, maybe a divorce, I went and worked for McDonald's East Coast real estate division. So I learned commercial. So for about a year and a half, I still had my license. Although McDonald's wanted me to hang my license, I was like, nope, I won't take the job. They're like, okay, just don't sell to anybody at McDonald's. Okay, cool. So I learned commercial and franchise commercial. And then I learned short sales. So when I did come back to the real estate industry truly full time, I was the go-to person. And then around 2008, when I did make the shift back, our multiple listing service was looking for contract trainers. So there's always something to do in real estate. So because of that, and because they had opened the door, now I'm a true teacher or instructor. I used to teach Bible study. I used to teach people at the church, what a mouse is, how to click on the internet. No, it's not a real mouse. No, that thing that pops out of the desktop computer is not a coffee holder. It's where you put this disc. I'm telling my age, right? So I was always an instructor. So transitioning into teaching tech. And the one thing I didn't tell you is I used to produce the television show at my church. So I'm really tech savvy.
Where did that come from?
I think because, when I got the job based on my twin sister skills for Kassane Business Systems, I was pushed into tech in 1990. And then I worked for a company called NEC Technologies. So I was already learning tech. I had already, like, we're using Zoom to record for a podcast. When I worked for NEC, they were doing streaming, and it was probably thousands of dollars per day. So I knew flat screen TVs, they had plasma. I just understand tech because I was in it. So being able to adjust and to teach tech was an easy transition for me.
Got you. So since you're speaking on tech, does your business incorporate a lot of automation?
So yes. So, well, let me say it like this. When it comes to automation, like if you were to come to my real estate page, I use the bot inside of Facebook. So it's an autoresponder. Our company, because of the pandemic, so I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses cohort during the pandemic. And so we went to a virtual office. Because I'm tech savvy, we were already using something called Workplace, which is owned by Facebook or Meta today. And so I have a true online platform. And so I can run a business and be an instructor. Although I'm kind of transitioning and trying to train some of my agents to train some of the new agents so I can pivot a little bit. Anyone that comes to my company, I really like tech savvy and self-starters because I have a whole campaign. I email you your first 6 weeks in real estate. I do have virtual classes. I have in-person classes, but I have a full built out classroom because I'm tech savvy. So I can compete with big box brokerages. Some people like big box because they think they need the name, but I can do everything they can do.
How many agents do you guys have?
32. We
32.
fluctuate between 32 and 40. And, you know, they always say, Carrie, you create confidence, and that's a good thing. So a lot of agents end up getting their broker license or managing broker in Illinois, and they open brokerages. And, you know, I never stop anyone. I never say you can't do it. If someone asks me what I think, I'll tell you, hold out, wait a minute, because, you know, you might not know as much as you think you do. But I've had 4 or 5 agents open their home brokerages. And because I really do teach the fundamentals of real estate and tech, companies come in and write checks to my agents. And I'm like, you know what? Go take the check. Because I'm not writing a check.
Gotcha.
So we fluctuate between 32 and 40. I'm always asked, Carrie, do you want to be bigger? If I could clone myself, maybe. And now we're licensed in, my husband and I are licensed in Florida and Illinois. And I have people that want to join me in Florida. I'm like, hold on, because they don't use attorneys. I got to figure that out.
Gotcha. So what would you say are probably the top 2 fundamental pieces that a real estate agent should have?
So the top 2, let me say, as a new real estate agent, you have to show up to learn, and you have to ask for the business. So if I were to say those 2 things to a new real estate agent, you got to show up if you want to get it done. Sounds like a reel, right? And then number 2, you got to ask for the business. So even if you weren't tech savvy, even if you knew nothing about real estate, if you show up, learn what your brokerages teach you, what your multiple listing service teaches, your local, state, and national association, what they teach, and then you put into practice and you ask for the business, you can do this business. It's the agents that come to class or they call their managing broker or broker the day they have to write a contract. It's hard to help you. And it's easy. I can answer the phone, but now I got to just tell you what to do. I can't give you context. So the best tip I can give anyone that's new in the business, you got to show up. Even if you're dual career, part-time, some of the time, you got to fit in time to do the business, practice the business, and then ask for the business.
Gotcha. What would you say is your top lead generation piece right now for you that you utilize?
First of all, I'll tell everyone that's new in the business or anyone that's in the business, you need to have a list of people. Now, I said a list because not everyone is tech savvy, so might not jump right to a client relationship management tool. But if you could, that would be great. If anyone was new and if your brokerage gives you a client relationship management tool, CRM, or you have to invest in one, go for it, because when you start to do business, all of your contacts will be in one place. But if you could just break out a notepad or Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and put in everyone you know, that the people you know, your money is your net worth is in your network. Even if you know 2 people, you got to figure out how to get outside, meet new people, and build your network. And nothing happens overnight. It happens over time. So build your CRM, add the people you know, and mail to those people. And I said mail for this reason. I'm a little bit older. Gen X, baby boomers, and silent generation are more likely to hire you from the mailbox. You do need social media because we know, I think as of this year, the internet was about 33 years old, or the World Wide Web. If the average or the median age of a buyer is 32 or 33, they're all on social media. They're using tech. But in 10 years, if we haven't integrated the social media, you could be listless. So you need a database. You're more likely to generate business from the people you already know, even if you don't have a big list. I'll go to a second one. You got to learn how to use the multiple listing service. I know we all have different multiple listing services, but my multiple listing service, I can export a list of tenants that rented out something and they need to make a decision to move in the next 90 days. And I could take that same list and I could mail to the owner. That's 2 leads. Or depending on how you look at it, it could be, you could have a tenant, they could become a buyer. You could have a tenant, they could become a new tenant, and that's low-hanging fruit. And that list could also become your listing list. Like you could list, it could be you have a new investor, so you have multiple streams of income, or this list could be that you're going to relist the property for rent, or you're going to list it for sale. Because in this market, in the seller's market, where there's not a lot of inventory, you now could do a marketing piece that talks about, how much more people are putting down on offers, the multiple offers, and the increase in median sales price and the low inventory. And someone's going to call you, because I mailed to my old neighborhood where I grew up, and someone called yesterday, and I've been mailing since for about 8 months. And these people in where I grew up they've lived there for over 30 years, but we don't mail. And in the minority community, especially us, I hear the stories I hear. So I have another agent friend, Sarah. She's like, Carrie, I mail, and then someone calls me and I answer the phone, and they're like, oh my gosh, you really answer the phone. Like if one of you just started to mail, minority or not, eventually you'll get a lead. And it takes about 5 to 7 months for someone to pick you from a direct mail piece. So sphere of influence, database, mail to your own neighborhood, and leverage your MLS, because you don't need to spend any additional money generating leads. You can use third-party companies. You could use realtor.com, not a real estate company. You could use Home Finder, not a real estate company. You could use Zillow, now a real estate company, to buy leads. But if you just show up to learn your MLS, there's money. There's so much money in our multiple listing service. We just want someone to give us the lead.
Okay. That was a lot. So let's talk about the mailer portion first. I know you said maybe takes about 5 times before you see a return. But once you get that return, how long do you feel they should continue to mail? Because see, when we have a level of success, which may be that one lead and close on that one house, we typically stop doing what got us to business. So what are your thoughts on continuing?
Zig Ziglar said, when business is good, advertise. When business is bad, you have to advertise. Here's a what if for your entire real estate career, I went to my multiple listing service, of which I have open, and I searched, and I'm just going to pick a random city in Illinois. And I hear Georgia has the same MLS as us now. I hear. Maybe Ebony showed it to me. Maybe. And I go to, and I look up residential rental, and it takes me seconds to do this. And I look for all off market, and I pick Naperville, because Naperville is one of the larger cities in Illinois outside of Chicago. And then I look for people, like today is the 22nd of April. So April 22nd, May 22nd. So May, June, July 22nd of last year. So I need about 90 days because people need to be able to give notice. So if I were to put in July 22nd of last year, 2021, and then I put in today's date, which is the 22nd, in Naperville, Illinois, there are 259 potential buyers, potential tenants, potential landlords that could list again. I got 2 opportunities, at least 2. I'm just going to say at least 2. If I were to consistently change the date every single month for the duration of my career, even if I have 50 listings, because now I got a staff, if I just did this one thing, I can guarantee a real estate agent will always have a lead. Now, conversion is a different conversation, because if you learn how to convert, you're good. But if I were to mail to this list every single month, because it's going to roll over every single month, if I did this for the duration of my career, I will always have the business, because eventually this tenant will become a buyer. This buyer will eventually become a new listing, because about 4 years in or 5 years in, all of your buyers are thinking about selling again. And I mean, depending on the market. So if I just did this one thing, and this is not your sphere of influence, and you did it for the duration of your career, you'd have a sellable business.
Wow. All from your MLS system that you pay for anyway.
It's included in your dues. What's hard is I have agents, they're like, oh, Carrie, I'm watching the Keisha Johnsons of the world. And I'm like, I want to be just like her. And I'm like, Do you know how long this agent has been in business? Like, we've been playing in the sandbox so long that even if I decided to get rid of all of my agents, I don't have to go back to work because I know how to do the business. So if I'm 18 and I only have my friends that are going to college, I need to tell my parents, I need you to help me do the business, or I need to go work on a team and go do this for the team.
Wow. Okay. Since we're talking about lead generation, what are your thoughts on agents buying leads?
This is what I say. If you're someone like, I have one agent right now because I have a friend, Hope Mims from Baltimore, Maryland. And she told me, she's a broker owner. And she was like, Carrie, I'm doing this contest called Secure the Bag. And I was like, tell me more. And so Secure the Bag, and because I'm doing it with my agents, is after in September, we're going to draw to pick the person that gets to win this YSL bag. I didn't realize how motivated people are. Like, this is my idea of luxury purses, Coach. Okay. I like, cars. I like inventory. I like real estate. So I have one agent that's buying leads. And I'm like, I don't understand. And she was like, Carrie, I need to do it. I need to buy it. So she's buying leads and she's cold calling every day. And if I were to go look up her inventory right now, and here's the deal. She told me, Carrie, I'm winning that bag. I know what color I want. I know which purse I want. I'm like, okay, because I have a dollar amount. She has 3 new listings right now from cold calling. So I'm not against buying leads, but if you don't have the pocketbook, you can like remine real estate data mining in a lot of our markets. You get the email and you get the phone number. So you could take, there's so many ways to generate leads because I could take the email, pay for Facebook ads. I could email, I could direct mail. There's so many ways to get the business, but if you're going to pay for it, you gotta make the phone calls or you got to do the mailers.
Okay. So dig into Remine a little bit. I don't think I've heard of that.
So in a lot of our markets, now in our market, we got Remine, and it's Remine because it's called real estate data mining.
Okay.
We got that because we had another tool of which I think we're going to get back. Remine was built for predictive analytics. So we use it as a tax system and meaning you can look up taxes, history of the property, etc. But the cool thing about using a tool like Remine is it's national. So I can go look in Atlanta. I can go look in Kissimmee, Florida. I can go look in Allen, Texas. But most importantly is I can look in my own market. And the great thing about Remine is I could look at property values. I could look at estimated home equity, how long someone has lived in the home. I can look at sell score, the likelihood that someone's going to sell based on data. I can look at building type, absentee owners. So I can work in Illinois and look for everyone that owns in Illinois, but they live in Atlanta, Georgia. This tool to me is one of the best. And this is one of the tools I'm using to mail to my old neighborhood. Like I have a couple of blocks because where I grew up, streets and blocks, there's no winding circles or anything. So it's like 25th Avenue to 17th, Roosevelt Road to Fillmore. It's like a square or a rectangle. And I've been mailing to people that have lived in the home over 30 years. And that's where we just got a phone call, and it's been about 5 to 6 months. Or I could just look at sell score. I could put in a neighborhood in Atlanta. I could put in a neighborhood in Chicago. I can even right now, just looking at this, choose off market, and I can scroll down and put in distressed deals. And right now in my map view, I have 1,701 pre-foreclosures, and they're not on the market. I have 1,701. This is commercial. This is residential. And if I wanted to have a niche, I could put in building type single family, click apply, and I have 1,153. Remine is not only can you mail, but they have a marketing system where you can pay to play. They do the postcards, that you could do social media. I could also extract the list, and I could upload the emails to Facebook and place an ad. And the cool thing about Remind is there's a cup of coffee section. Is Remind will email me every day when something changes. So I could go pick any area like Naperville and put in all of the actives. And then every day around 8 or 9 a.m., Remind tells me if anything changed with the actives. Did it go from active to off market? They tell you what to do. I don't need to spend any extra money. I just need to use what's in that I'm paying, all the tools I'm paying for.
So do you think that more agents don't do this because they don't know, or they prefer the instant gratification?
I think both. I think a lot of people get in because they watch Instagram and we make it look awesome. Although the people don't know we're paying a professional photographer to take photos. We're paying videographers, and then they don't show up to regular class. They want to pay us, the people that train, to tell them what to do, like they're doing it. Like we need to figure out what works best for us. And like I said, you got to go figure out what's available at your local association. But here's what I know, because even in Georgia, you don't have to be a member and you can get access to the multiple listing service. So no matter what, number one, I do think they don't know what they don't know. We get a first deal and it's the hustle. Like you're just trying to figure out where the next deal is coming from. And then number two, I think a lot of people want to pay because they think that because someone sold the lead to you, that it's a guarantee. You still got to convert. So why not use what you pay for, team up with a loan officer and do a mailer?
So let's talk. Let's talk. Do you think that a lot of this knowledge isn't being taught to agents simply because of the lack of compensation that brokers are getting nowadays? And I'll give you an explanation. When I used to be a realtor, got into business 2004. And when I was an agent, I started off with a 50-50 split. And I was tickled pink. I was like, 50% of this? Oh, sure. Now agents want 90-10.
Or 100%.
Or 100%. Or, and the broker pays a flat fee. So it's not advantageous to the broker to spend as much time with the Keisha Johnsons of the world because they're only getting $500 a month from them versus back in the day when they had the potential to, 10, 15,000 a month off of that person.
Because then it wasn't an option. 50-50 was it. Sign me up.
Yeah. And it might have been 55-45. I heard somebody did a 55-45 and 55 went to the broker.
And the options were different. I think I think when the market shifted, all these new models came out so people could we could entice them to keep their licenses. Because I think we were under 1 million realtor members like 2009, and now we're well over 1.5. We might have 1.6 because of the pandemic. So let me say this. Brokerages and brokers are required to supervise and educate per license law. They're required. So it doesn't matter if they're 100% flat fee, some of the fees, monthly fee, 50-50, 60-40, whatever. They're still required to educate. The challenge is you're right. A lot of times they don't because they're not making as much income. What I would say to real estate agents is this, and I've been doing this long enough. And my husband and I talk like sometimes I'm a little conservative and I don't flaunt it. Like my husband's like, you need to charge more. You need to do this. Our brokerage, we have a model. It's not 100%. It's not flat fee. I can't survive that way. And but I will say I have a monthly fee, which is nothing. I mean, it is barely break even to cover the costs for e-signature, errors and omissions, workplace. We give them a CRM. We pay for all of that. Plus you give me, and I'm not included in the rate. But when you work for me, you think that that's a part of the fee. But let's say it's $50 a month. I know if someone called to pay me, I can get $5,000 to talk I know I can. So what I would say to agents is, I don't care where you go. If it's 50-50, show up to learn. If it's about your pocketbook, you will be 100% of nothing is nothing. Because I get calls from agents. You know what? I'm at this brokerage. Carrie, I love how you train. Will you do flat fee? No. If you want if you want to keep flat fee, I'm going to tell you what to do. Go back to your brokerage and tell them to train you. I'll even give you 3 tips. Go back to your broker and tell them to train you. Number 2, go to MLS training and go to the local association. You got to go learn. So wherever you're going to sign up, you got to show up to learn. You've got to show up to learn.
Gotcha. Wow. So with that being said, typically the classes for the MLS are minimally nothing. You know, sometimes it's 10, 15
Depends
bucks.
on where you are, because we've got 20 trainers in our market. And I say we because I'm one of them. I don't train as much, but you can have training in your office or via WebEx or Zoom, and it doesn't cost your office anything.
Wow.
So it does depend on the area.
Wow. You're right. So if someone wants to get more information about the services that you offer, how can they reach you?
You can, if you Google me, like I'm Carrie Jo Little everywhere. Carrie Little everywhere. I'm Carrie Jo because my twin sister is Mina Jo. The only one place I might be Carrie J Little is Twitter, although I think I own Carrie Jo Little too. You can find me if you go to smartgirlmedia.com as an instructor. I have a blog. I have all my classes and memberships there, but I go live every Friday on Instagram. So I always tell people, if you want to learn from me and maybe you're just not at a point where you can pay for education, show up to your brokerages when they have training, show up to office hours, show up for MLS training, go to the local association and join me on Instagram. And I do have a YouTube channel and a podcast, but my YouTube channel, I do every Wednesday, I premiere a 10-minute or less video to teach you something.
That's amazing. So, Carrie, this has been awesome. Once again, I definitely appreciate your time. If you could give us just one thing that we didn't cover, you think that's important, one tip, one jewel that you like, they need to know this if they plan on being a real estate professional, what would that be?
Stop watching everybody else and do the business the way you need to do the business. If social media didn't exist, do you think you could be successful? So it's good to watch social media. It's good to watch reality TV, but do you want to be a watcher so much that you're wishing that you were like someone else, or do you want to be the person that other people watch?
Wow. Couldn't said it better myself. And that's an awesome way to end the podcast. You've been listening to the Real Estate Proverbs podcast with Kevin Jefferson and Carrie Little. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching the Real Estate Proverbs podcast with Kevin Jefferson. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when the latest video drops.